the last 48 hours watching the all sports national media tell you that Kawhi Leonard needs to be in the MVP race? Where you been? We've had him right up there for the last several months. Kawhi goes for 39, has the key block against the MVP frontrunner James Harden a couple nights ago. Is there such a thing as individualism being suppressed in San Antonio for a coach that believes so much in speaking his mind about politics, culture, and everything else? Greg Popovich hasn't come out yet and said, this is my MVP. Well, that's the way he plays things. But the question now is, with Kawhi Leonard resting for tonight's game against Sacramento, will that national media still carry over that momentum he had in the win against Houston to think that he truly is one of the legit MVP favorites? Let's bring in Jabari Young from the San Antonio Express-News. Still have Howard Beck with us here. And you know, I know Kawhi is not going to come out. It's not within his personality. And the Spurs way produces championships. That's more important. But this guy deserves to be right up there. Do you think Kawhi is getting the support from the team that would help him campaign for an MVP?
Well, publicly, they're not going to come out and say, well, at least Greg Popovich won't, but the players will, his teammates will. Pau Gasol came out and said he should probably be MVP. I mean, nobody in the locker room will say that Kawhi Leonard doesn't deserve it. Greg Popovich, that's not his style. He's not going to do it. He figures, listen, if the league recognizes what this young man's doing on the court, if they see it, then he'll be awarded properly. So, listen, there's no doubt about it that Kawhi deserves to be up there. He is up there. After the other night, I had James Harden number one. Guess what? James Harden is now slid down to number two. I know the stats are good. I know he's putting up triple doubles, lead the leads in assists. But at the same time, when you got a guy playing two-way basketball and then comes down and makes the block on the so-called could-be MVP in James Harden to win the game, that to me is instilled in my mind, and he is my number one pick right now for the MVP. If Russell Westbrook and James Harden want it, they got to come and get it from Kawhi Leonard the same way he came and got James Harden the other night.
I feel like we're getting ready for a boxing match here. This is good. Keep it going. Howard, match this here. I caution everybody when making an argument for who your MVP is to understand that there's a human element. There's voters here. When Kawhi Leonard gets these nights off and James Harden and Russell Westbrook do not come out of games, does this night tonight, even though the Spurs are 4-1 without him this year, does this potentially hurt with the voters?
I don't think so, Jared. I think, if Kawhi Leonard were to miss a stretch of games, whether due to injury or whether just due to resting, whatever it was, maybe that comes into play. And he has missed 5 games so far. Harden and Westbrook, who have been looked at as the leaders all season, right or wrong, have not missed any games. And it's fair to weigh that in. Everything weighs in. Your attendance record, your number of games played, minutes played, obviously your stats. Playing the other side of the ball also matters, though. And to Jabari's point, of the guys that we're talking about as the leaders in the MVP race, only Kawhi Leonard is an elite defender. In fact, a former Defensive Player of the Year 2 times over. So that's not getting weighed enough into this discussion. Everybody is so caught up in the gaudy stats of Russell Westbrook averaging a triple-double, in James Harden doing some historic things, both in scoring and assists, that Kawhi and even LeBron James, of all people, are being overlooked in this discussion. I don't think Kawhi resting will hurt him. I think just the fact that he plays kind of a low-key game, has a low-key personality, and doesn't get the accolades, doesn't have the gaudy stats, that will hurt him more, I think. But hopefully what happened the other night in Houston with that fantastic finish by Kawhi gets the momentum going to at least have more people considering him, because Kawhi Leonard absolutely positively should not only be in the discussion, but he should be strongly considered as the top of that ballot. By the way, one key consideration we haven't hit, the Spurs are on pace for 65 wins. They're going to be no worse than the second best team in the NBA by record, either 1 or 2, depending on how things go for the Warriors. Whereas the Thunder are going to finish about 45 wins they're on pace for. The Rockets about 56. And the wins have to count too.
Jabari?
Absolutely, I agree with Howard. He took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, I love what Westbrook is doing in Oklahoma City, putting up the triple doubles, phenomenal stats. But his team is in the 7th place. You cannot have and reward a guy whose team is in 7th place. I understand he's not the guy to put together the roster, but at the same time, I just don't see how an MVP could be the 7th seed. With that said, I know when you take Russell or James off their teams, they don't win. But Kawhi Leonard doesn't have anything to do with resting. He shouldn't be penalized for that because that's Greg Popovich's decision. If Kawhi Leonard was given the ball and say, do you want to play? Believe me, he will be out there tonight against the Kings, and he probably would drop 40 on them. But I'm not going to sit up here and say that should hurt him.
All right, what do you think about the Spurs' upcoming stretch? We know how Greg Popovich is playing tonight, but what is the forecast upcoming?
Well, obviously, this is there on the back-to-back, so you obviously want to go in Oklahoma City and send them a message because that's a team that you could possibly be facing in the first round if the standings hold as they are right now. That Saturday game against the Golden State Warriors is the one because they kind of come into your home building. And Tony Parker told me the other night that the win against the Houston Rockets was important. Why? Because we're still trying to make that #1 push for this stuff for the first seed, and they should be. They're not going to come out, and now everybody's not going to say we're trying to challenge them, but they should be making a push. Why? Because if you have to see Golden State in a 7-game series in the Western Conference Finals, and it gets to a Game 7, would you rather be at Oracle Arena or would you rather be right here at the AT&T Center? So these games coming up for them will count. They got to take care of business starting tonight, and obviously, you take care of business on Saturday, but if they can get this stretch out of the way and go 4-0, that's impressive to me.
Jabari Young from the San Antonio Express News. Great job as always, buddy. We'll see you soon. Howard Beck stays with us.